to dream of infinite possibilities, yet fear taking a single step? What if the key to unlocking your potential was also the source of your deepest stagnation? For within this archetype lies the brilliance of unbound creativity and the shadow of arrested development. Across millennia, thinkers have pondered the allure of eternal youth and the challenge of embracing mature responsibility. Ancient myths and legends are populated with figures who embody this eternal child. Icarus, who soared too close to the sun, heedless of his father's warnings. Ganymede, the eternally youthful cupbearer to the gods, forever exempt from the trials of mortal life. Driven by a longing for freedom and adventure, these figures highlight humanity's enduring fascination with both immortality and the rejection of limitations. Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung, in his exploration of the universal patterns of the human psyche, identified the pure eternus as a key archetype. This archetype serves as a symbolic representation of the eternal child, forever seeking out new possibilities, but often struggling to commit to a single, defined path. Across cultures and throughout history, individuals have grappled with the tension between the desire for boundless freedom and the equally important need for stability and commitment, yearning for endless possibilities while often struggling with the consequences of avoiding adult responsibilities. However, in a world that often glorifies youth and shies away from aging, it's all too easy to become trapped in the pure's alluring embrace, leading to a prolonged adolescence and a profound sense of unfulfillment, creating a cycle of seeking novelty without ever finding lasting satisfaction. So, how do we reconcile this inherent desire for freedom and novelty with the equally important need for commitment, responsibility, and meaningful contribution in our lives? Given the societal pressures and internal yearnings that pull us in opposing directions, how can we nurture the creative spark of the inner child without succumbing to the pitfalls of perpetual adolescence? We'll begin by exploring the defining characteristics of the pure eternus archetype, tracing its roots in mythology, literature, and personal experience. From there, we'll delve into the shadow aspects that can sabotage personal growth and hinder fulfilling relationships. Finally, we'll uncover practical strategies for integrating this archetype into a more balanced and fulfilling life, learning to harness its positive qualities while mitigating its negative influences. By the end of this exploration, you'll not only gain a deeper understanding of the pure eternus archetype and its pervasive influence on our lives, but also acquire practical tools to identify its influence in your own life, navigate the tension between freedom and responsibility, and cultivate a more integrated and meaningful existence. So, let's embark on this journey into the psychology of the eternal child and discover how to harness its boundless potential while embracing the responsibilities of adulthood. The desire for boundless freedom, contrasted with the acceptance of life's limitations, leaves many caught between the thrill of endless possibility and the grounding force of reality. Is this an inescapable human condition, or a psychological complex with identifiable roots and potential resolutions? The pure eternus, or eternal child, is characterized by a strong desire for freedom, a love of novelty, and a reluctance to commit to long-term responsibilities. But how does this manifest in everyday life? The pure's energy can fuel creativity, imagination, and a youthful enthusiasm for life. This archetype finds expression in those who resist the constraints of conventional careers, choosing instead to pursue passions that ignite their inner spark. The pure is often drawn to artistic pursuits, intellectual exploration, and unconventional lifestyles. What's the driver? It is an insatiable curiosity and a deep-seated belief in the power of potential. Consider the artist who flits from one medium to another, never settling on a single style, constantly experimenting and reinventing their craft. Or the academic who jumps from one field of study to another, always seeking new knowledge, but never fully committing to a specific area of expertise. These are examples of the pure's positive attributes at play, but there's a flip side to every coin. However, this archetype also carries the potential for irresponsibility, impulsivity, and a fear of commitment. The pure may struggle with procrastination, lack of follow-through, and a tendency to avoid difficult emotions. So, what happens when things get tough? The initial excitement fades, and the pure, faced with the prospect of hard work and dedication, often retreats, seeking a new, more stimulating challenge. This can lead to a pattern of unfulfilled potential and a sense of perpetual dissatisfaction, sabotaging relationships and career paths alike. This combination of positive and negative traits creates a complex and often contradictory character, leading to both extraordinary achievements and profound personal struggles. The shadow represents the repressed or disowned aspects of the personality. For the pure, this often includes a fear of aging, a resistance to authority, and a deep-seated insecurity about his ability to succeed in the real world. But what does this insecurity look like? It can manifest as a reluctance to embrace the responsibilities of adulthood, a tendency to avoid conflict, and a deep-seated fear of failure. This inner critic often whispers doubts and anxieties, undermining the pure's confidence and perpetuating a cycle of self-doubt. The pure may compensate for these insecurities by developing a narcissistic sense of entitlement and grandiosity, believing that he is special and deserving of special treatment. What is this compensation dynamic? It is a defense mechanism against feelings of inadequacy. By inflating his ego and demanding admiration from others, the pure seeks to mask his underlying insecurities. This can manifest as an exaggerated sense of self-importance, a need for constant validation, and a lack of empathy for others. However, this inflated ego is often fragile, easily deflated by criticism or rejection. This can manifest as a refusal to take responsibility for his actions, a tendency to blame others for his failures, and an unwillingness to confront the consequences of his choices. How does this play out in relationships? The pure may also turn to addiction or escapism as a way to avoid facing his inner demons, seeking temporary relief from his anxieties and insecurities through drugs, alcohol, or other destructive behaviors. Is there a pattern here? Indeed, the pattern is one of avoidance. Rather than confronting his fears and insecurities, the pure seeks temporary refuge in external distractions. This can lead to a downward spiral of addiction and self-destruction, further isolating him from genuine connection and fulfillment. These shadow aspects can sabotage the pure's potential, leading to a cycle of self-sabotage and unfulfilled dreams. What are the real-world impacts? Missed opportunities, broken relationships, and a pervasive sense of emptiness. The pure, trapped in his own self-created prison, is unable to experience the joy and satisfaction that come from embracing life's challenges and responsibilities. The myth of Icarus provides a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked ambition and a disregard for boundaries. Icarus, consumed by a desire to fly higher than ever before, ignores his father's warnings and soars too close to the sun, melting his wings and plunging to his death. Where did Icarus go wrong? He failed to heed the wisdom of his father and overestimated his own abilities. This is a classic example of the pure's tendency to ignore boundaries and pursue unrealistic goals, often leading to disastrous consequences. His desire for freedom and transcendence ultimately led to his demise. In Greek mythology, Ganymede was a beautiful young boy who was abducted by Zeus to serve as his cupbearer on Mount Olympus, granting him eternal youth. But at what cost? Ganymede was forever removed from the human experience, denied the opportunity to grow, mature, and experience the full spectrum of life's joys and sorrows. This is a poignant symbol of the pure's desire for eternal youth and the potential consequences of avoiding the challenges and responsibilities of adulthood. He gains immortality but loses his humanity, forever trapped in a state of perpetual adolescence. Peter Pan embodies the pure's resistance to growing up, creating a world where time stands still and responsibilities are non-existent. But can this last? Neverland, while seemingly idyllic, is ultimately a fantasy, a world divorced from reality. Peter Pan, forever young and carefree, is unable to form lasting relationships or experience the depth and complexity of adult emotions. This illustrates the pure's fear of commitment and his inability to embrace the challenges of maturity. He remains forever on the periphery of life, unable to fully participate in the human experience. The Little Prince, with his childlike wonder and profound questions about the nature of life, represents the pure's capacity for innocence and wisdom. But how is this wisdom revealed? Through his encounters with various characters on different planets, the Little Prince learns valuable lessons about love, loss, and the importance of human connection. This highlights the pure's potential for insight and his ability to see the world with fresh eyes. His innocence allows him to cut through superficiality and grasp the essence of things, offering a unique perspective on the human condition. These figures, while seemingly different, all share common threads that illuminate the complexities and contradictions of the pure eterness archetype. The first step toward integration is to acknowledge and accept the pure within, recognizing that the desire for freedom and novelty is a natural and valuable part of the human experience. How do we achieve this? Through self-reflection, journaling, and exploring our own inner world. By understanding the roots of our desires and insecurities, we can begin to make conscious choices about how we express them. Acceptance doesn't mean condoning irresponsible behavior. It means recognizing the pure's presence and learning to work with it constructively. Rather than suppressing the pure's energy, find healthy outlets for its expression through creative pursuits, hobbies, and intellectual exploration. Where do we start looking? By identifying our passions and interests and dedicating time and energy to pursuing them. This could involve painting, writing, playing music, learning a new language, or engaging in any activity that sparks our curiosity and ignites our imagination. By channeling the pure's energy into creative pursuits, we can harness its positive qualities and avoid its destructive tendencies. Learn to set healthy boundaries and prioritize responsibilities, recognizing that commitment and stability are essential for long-term fulfillment. But how do we learn to say no? By recognizing our own limits and understanding the importance of self-care. This involves setting clear boundaries with others, prioritizing our own needs, and learning to say no to requests that drain our energy or compromise our values. By setting healthy boundaries, we can create space for both freedom and responsibility, allowing us to pursue our passions without neglecting our obligations. Confront narcissistic tendencies and develop empathy for others, recognizing that true connection and intimacy require vulnerability and selflessness. Where is that line between self-confidence and narcissism? Self-confidence is rooted in a realistic assessment of one's abilities and a genuine belief in one's worth. Narcissism, on the other hand, is based on an inflated sense of self-importance and a need for constant admiration. By developing empathy for others and practicing humility, we can overcome narcissistic tendencies and build genuine connections with those around us. These initial steps can help the pure eterness begin to integrate into the personality, paving the way for a more balanced and fulfilling life. What does the future hold? What happens as we age? While the pure embodies youth, potential, and limitless possibilities, the senex represents age, experience, limitations, and the acceptance of mortality. These are, in essence, two sides of the same coin. The pure and the senex archetypes represent opposing forces within the psyche, a dynamic tension between the desire for perpetual youth and the acceptance of aging and responsibility. Is this dichotomy simply a matter of growing older, or is it a deeper psychological wrestling match? The pure seeks novelty and avoids commitment, while the senex values stability and tradition. The pure is impulsive and spontaneous, embracing change and shunning the mundane, while the senex is cautious and deliberate, preferring established routines and time-tested methods. What are their drives? The pure is driven by a yearning for exploration and self-discovery, a constant search for new experiences and adventures, while the senex is driven by a desire for security and order, a need to create a stable and predictable environment. Consider the entrepreneur who constantly starts new businesses, always chasing the next big idea, compared to the seasoned executive who steadily manages a well-established company, focused on long-term growth and stability. One thrives on risk and innovation, the other on careful planning and consistent execution. An overemphasis on the pure can lead to perpetual adolescence, a life of unfulfilled potential, and a constant search for the next thrill, while an overemphasis on the senex can result in rigidity and stagnation, a life devoid of joy and spontaneity. What does this rigidity look like? It manifests as an inability to adapt to change, a resistance to new ideas, and a clinging to outdated beliefs and practices. The individual becomes stuck in their ways, unable to embrace new possibilities or experience the richness and diversity of life. On one hand, the eternal child flits from job to job, relationship to relationship, never truly investing in anything, always seeking a better, more exciting option. On the other, the rigid traditionalist clings to outdated customs and beliefs, unable to adapt to a changing world, becoming increasingly isolated and irrelevant. Both extremes represent a failure to integrate the opposing forces within the psyche, leading to a life of imbalance and dissatisfaction. The key lies in finding a balance between these two opposing forces, integrating the pure's creativity and enthusiasm with the senex's wisdom and responsibility. This integration allows the individual to harness the positive qualities of both archetypes, embracing life with both youthful exuberance and mature discernment. Is this integration even possible? Indeed, it is not only possible, but essential for achieving wholeness and fulfillment. By acknowledging and integrating these opposing forces, we can create a dynamic and balanced life, one that is both exciting and stable, both spontaneous and responsible. Now, let's explore the impact of early childhood experiences and how they can influence the development of the pure complex. Early childhood trauma, neglect, or abuse can contribute to the development of a pure eternus complex, creating a deep-seated fear of commitment and intimacy. How does this manifest? It can manifest as a difficulty forming lasting relationships, a tendency to avoid emotional vulnerability, and a fear of being trapped or controlled. The individual may unconsciously associate intimacy with pain and rejection, leading them to create emotional distance and sabotage potential relationships. The wounds of the past cast a long shadow, shaping the pure's perception of the world and influencing their behavior in profound ways. These individuals may seek constant validation and reassurance, but simultaneously push away those who get too close, fearing vulnerability and the potential for further hurt. Overly permissive or indulgent parenting can also foster a pure complex, preventing the child from developing healthy boundaries and a sense of responsibility. Is this loving the same as helping? Not necessarily. Overly permissive parenting can create a sense of entitlement and a lack of self-discipline, making it difficult for the child to cope with the challenges and responsibilities of adulthood. The child may grow up believing that they are special and deserving of special treatment, failing to develop the resilience and work ethic necessary to succeed in the real world. While seemingly loving and supportive, such parenting can inadvertently hinder the child's development, preventing them from becoming a fully functioning and independent adult. The lack of boundaries and expectations deprives the child of the opportunity to learn from their mistakes and develop a sense of self-efficacy. Conversely, overly restrictive or authoritarian parenting can stifle the child's natural creativity and spontaneity, leading to a rebellion against authority and a desire for endless freedom. What are the effects of control? Overly controlling parenting can create a deep-seated resentment and a yearning for autonomy. The child may feel suffocated and oppressed, leading them to rebel against authority and seek out experiences that defy their parents' expectations. This rebellion can manifest as a rejection of traditional values, a pursuit of unconventional lifestyles, and a resistance to any form of structure or control. The individual may become trapped in a cycle of defiance, constantly seeking to assert their independence but never truly finding inner peace or fulfillment. The suppression of their natural creativity and spontaneity can lead to feelings of emptiness and a lack of purpose. Consider the case of a man who experienced emotional neglect as a child. He now struggles with commitment in his relationships, fearing vulnerability and intimacy, and constantly seeking new experiences to avoid facing his pain. How does his past affect his present? His past experiences have created a deep-seated fear of abandonment and rejection, leading him to avoid emotional intimacy and seek out fleeting relationships that don't require a deep level of commitment. He may unconsciously sabotage his relationships, pushing away partners who get too close, fearing that they will eventually abandon him. His constant search for new experiences is a way of distracting himself from his pain and avoiding the vulnerability that comes with intimacy. He is trapped in a cycle of avoidance, unable to break free from the patterns of behavior that were established in his childhood. This tragic reality highlights the lasting impact of early childhood experiences on the development of the pure complex and sets the stage to explore how society can reinforce these patterns. These early experiences can shape the pure's development, creating patterns of behavior that persist into adulthood, hindering personal growth and fulfillment. So, how do we break these patterns? By acknowledging the impact of our past experiences, developing self-awareness, and seeking support from therapists or counselors. By understanding the roots of our fears and insecurities, we can begin to challenge the negative beliefs and patterns of behavior that were established in our childhood. Breaking free from these patterns requires courage, self-compassion, and a willingness to confront our inner demons. But here's what most people miss. It also requires understanding how societal expectations can further perpetuate the pure complex. Modern society often glorifies youth and discourages aging, contributing to the perpetuation of the pure eternus ideal. Where is this ideal seen? In advertising, media, and popular culture, which often portray youth as the epitome of beauty, happiness, and success, subtly suggesting that aging is something to be feared and avoided. This creates a societal pressure to stay young, leading individuals to pursue cosmetic procedures, engage in age-defying behaviors, and cling to youthful ideals. The fear of aging can become a self-fulfilling prophecy, leading individuals to reject the wisdom and experience that come with age, and instead desperately cling to a fleeting illusion of youth. The media often portrays maturity as boring, unglamorous, and undesirable, reinforcing the pure's fear of growing old. What are the impacts of this pressure? It can lead to a rejection of responsibility, a reluctance to embrace commitment, and a fear of the mundane aspects of adult life. The media often celebrates rebellious youth and unconventional lifestyles, while simultaneously demonizing traditional values and responsible behavior. This creates a distorted view of maturity, making it seem unattractive and undesirable. As a result, individuals may resist growing up, clinging to youthful ideals and behaviors, and avoiding the responsibilities that come with adulthood. Consumer culture encourages instant gratification and the pursuit of novelty, further fueling the pure's desire for endless stimulation. What effect does this have on a society? It creates a culture of superficiality and instant gratification, where individuals are constantly bombarded with messages that encourage them to seek out new experiences and consume goods and services that promise instant happiness. This can lead to a cycle of dissatisfaction, where individuals are never truly content, always seeking the next thrill or the next material possession. The pursuit of instant gratification can also undermine the development of self-discipline and delayed gratification, essential qualities for achieving long-term goals and fulfilling responsibilities. This constant stimulation keeps individuals stuck in a state of perpetual adolescence, unable to embrace the challenges and rewards of maturity. The hookup culture and the emphasis on casual relationships can also contribute to the pure's fear of commitment, making it difficult to form lasting bonds. What are the impacts of this casualness? It normalizes emotional detachment, discourages vulnerability, and creates a climate of disposability in relationships. The constant availability of new partners can make it difficult to invest in long-term relationships, leading individuals to avoid commitment and seek out fleeting encounters that don't require a deep level of emotional investment. This can create a sense of loneliness and isolation, as individuals struggle to form meaningful connections and experience the intimacy and support that come with lasting relationships. The fear of commitment becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, leading individuals to avoid the very experiences that could bring them the greatest joy and fulfillment. These societal influences can create a breeding ground for the pure eterness complex, making it even more challenging to navigate the path to individuation and embrace the responsibilities of adulthood. What do these environments create? A sense of confusion, a lack of direction, and a difficulty forming a coherent sense of self. The constant bombardment of conflicting messages can make it difficult to know what is truly important, leading individuals to feel lost and uncertain about their place in the world. The pressure to conform to societal ideals can stifle individuality and prevent individuals from developing their unique talents and potential. What we'll discover next is even more shocking how these societal influences play out in the pure's interpersonal relationships, specifically in patterns of dependency. The pure often seeks out codependent relationships, finding partners who enable his irresponsibility and avoidant tendencies. Why is this relationship so enticing? Because it allows the pure to maintain a sense of freedom and avoid the responsibilities of adulthood, while simultaneously receiving the care and support that he craves. The codependent partner often derives a sense of worth and purpose from taking care of the pure, reinforcing his dependency and preventing him from developing self-sufficiency. This creates a dynamic of mutual reinforcement, where both partners are trapped in a cycle of unhealthy behavior. The pure's irresponsibility and avoidant tendencies are enabled by the codependent partner, while the codependent partner's need to be needed is reinforced by the pure's dependency. This can manifest as a rescuer-victim dynamic, where the pure relies on his partner to take care of him and solve his problems, reinforcing his sense of helplessness. What are the signs of this type of relationship? The rescuer may constantly bail the pure out of difficult situations, offer unsolicited advice, and take on responsibilities that the pure should be handling himself. The victim, on the other hand, may constantly complain about their problems, seek sympathy and attention, and avoid taking responsibility for their own actions. This dynamic can create a sense of resentment and frustration on both sides, as the rescuer becomes exhausted from constantly taking care of the victim, and the victim feels suffocated and controlled by the rescuer. The pure may also exhibit avoidant behaviors, creating emotional distance and preventing intimacy, fearing vulnerability and commitment. What types of activities are used for avoidance? Working long hours, excessive socializing, engaging in hobbies or addictions, or simply withdrawing emotionally from the relationship. These behaviors serve as a distraction from the vulnerability and intimacy that are essential for forming a deep and lasting connection. The pure may unconsciously sabotage the relationship, creating conflicts or pushing their partner away in order to avoid the potential for hurt or rejection. This pattern of avoidance can leave the partner feeling confused, frustrated, and emotionally neglected. In some cases, the pure may use manipulation and control tactics to maintain his freedom and avoid responsibility, playing the victim or gaslighting his partner. What's the underlying motivation? The desire to maintain control and avoid feeling vulnerable. By manipulating or controlling their partner, the pure can maintain a sense of power and avoid having to confront their own insecurities and fears. Playing the victim allows the pure to elicit sympathy and avoid taking responsibility for their actions. Gaslighting, a more insidious form of manipulation, involves distorting the partner's reality, making them question their own sanity and perceptions. These tactics can be incredibly damaging to the relationship, eroding trust and creating a climate of fear and uncertainty. But here is what they don't want you to know. This is not intentional. It's an unconscious protection mechanism that prevents the pure from taking responsibility. Creating healthier relationships requires the pure to take responsibility for his actions, develop empathy for his partner, and learn to communicate his needs in a direct and honest way. How does a relationship evolve past codependency? It requires both partners to acknowledge their unhealthy patterns of behavior and commit to making changes. The pure must learn to take responsibility for their own actions and develop self-sufficiency, while the codependent partner must learn to set boundaries and prioritize their own needs. Open and honest communication is essential for breaking free from these destructive patterns and cultivating a more balanced and fulfilling relationship. The pure must learn to express their needs and feelings in a direct and honest way, rather than relying on manipulation or avoidance. By understanding these relationship dynamics, the pure can begin to break free from these destructive patterns and cultivate more fulfilling and balanced connections. What are the keys to breaking these patterns? Self-awareness, self-compassion, and a willingness to seek help. The pure must first recognize their own unhealthy patterns of behavior and understand the impact that they have on their relationships. They must then cultivate self-compassion, recognizing that they are not inherently flawed or broken, but simply caught in a cycle of behavior that was shaped by their past experiences. Finally, they must be willing to seek help from therapists, counselors, or support groups who can provide guidance and support as they navigate the path to healing and growth. What are the concrete steps one can take to move toward integrating the pure? Individuation, in Jungian psychology, is the process of becoming a whole and integrated self, realizing one's unique potential and fulfilling one's destiny. It's a concept that's often talked about, but what does it really mean to embark on this journey, and what are the steps and stages of this process? It's far from a passive unfolding. It's a dynamic and often turbulent process of self-discovery, requiring a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths, embrace paradox, and integrate the disparate aspects of one's personality. Jung viewed it as the central task of adult life, the culmination of a lifelong quest for meaning and wholeness. But what happens when an individual, particularly one embodying the pure eterness archetype, struggles with this very process? The pure eterness, with his aversion to commitment and responsibility, often struggles with the demands of individuation, finding it difficult to embrace the limitations and sacrifices required for personal growth. How do these challenges manifest themselves, and why is it so difficult for the pure to reconcile his desire for freedom with the need for structure and discipline? The pure's inherent resistance to boundaries and obligations can become a major stumbling block on the path to wholeness. The individuation process demands a willingness to engage with the concrete realities of life, to take responsibility for one's choices, and to accept the consequences of one's actions. For the pure, who often seeks to escape into a world of fantasy and possibility, this can feel like a painful and unwelcome intrusion. The pure's desire for endless possibilities can prevent him from committing to a single path, leading to a sense of diffusion and a lack of direction. What prevents commitment to a certain path, and how does this fear of limitation undermine the individuation process? The pure often fears that committing to one option will mean closing the door on countless others, a prospect that feels unbearable. This fear can manifest as a constant shifting of interests and goals, a reluctance to invest fully in any one endeavor, and a pervasive sense of being adrift. The pure may excel at generating ideas and starting projects, but he often lacks the perseverance and focus needed to bring them to fruition. The result is a life of unfulfilled potential, a sense of being perpetually on the verge of something great, but never quite arriving. The individuation process inevitably involves facing difficult emotions, confronting one's shadow, and embracing suffering as a catalyst for growth. The pure often avoids these challenges, seeking instead to remain in a state of perpetual comfort and ease. But how can we grow without some type of suffering, and what happens when we attempt to bypass the necessary trials and tribulations of life? The pure may turn to various forms of escapism, such as addiction, fantasy, or excessive intellectualization, in an attempt to avoid the pain and discomfort that are inherent in the human experience. However, these strategies ultimately backfire, preventing the pure from developing the resilience and emotional maturity needed to navigate life's inevitable challenges. As Jung himself noted, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. The pure's avoidance of suffering only serves to prolong his state of psychological immaturity, preventing him from fully realizing his potential. These challenges can create a significant obstacle to the pure's individuation, preventing him from realizing his full potential and leading to a life of unfulfilled dreams. So how do we overcome these obstacles? And what steps can the pure take to move towards a more integrated and fulfilling existence? It requires a willingness to confront the underlying fears and insecurities that drive the pure's avoidant behaviors, to embrace the limitations and responsibilities of adult life, and to cultivate a deeper sense of meaning and purpose. Self-sabotage refers to behaviors or thought patterns that undermine one's goals and prevent one from achieving success. For the pure, this can manifest in a variety of ways, often unconsciously. What does this look like, and how does the pure's aversion to commitment and responsibility lead him to sabotage his own efforts? It can manifest as procrastination, perfectionism, and a tendency to abandon projects prematurely, all of which serve to reinforce the pure's sense of helplessness and prevent him from realizing his full potential. These self-sabotaging behaviors are often rooted in a deep-seated fear of failure and a belief that he is not capable of succeeding in the real world. The pure may procrastinate on important tasks, avoiding work or responsibilities that he perceives as boring or tedious, ultimately hindering his progress towards his goals. How does the pure's avoidance manifest, and what are the underlying motivations behind this procrastination? It often stems from a fear of being judged or evaluated, a fear that he will not be able to meet expectations or live up to his own idealized self-image. He may also procrastinate as a way of rebelling against authority or asserting his independence, refusing to conform to the demands of others. Whatever the underlying motivation, procrastination serves to undermine his progress and prevent him from achieving his goals. The pure may also engage in perfectionistic tendencies, setting unrealistically high standards for himself and becoming paralyzed by the fear of failure, preventing him from taking action. What triggers perfectionistic tendencies, and how does this pursuit of an unattainable ideal lead to inaction and stagnation? It often stems from a deep-seated insecurity and a need for external validation. The pure may believe that he is only worthy of love and acceptance if he is perfect, leading him to set impossibly high standards for himself. This pursuit of perfection can become a form of self-torture, as he constantly criticizes himself and dwells on his perceived flaws and shortcomings. The pure may start projects with enthusiasm, but then abandon them prematurely, losing interest or becoming discouraged when faced with obstacles, preventing him from achieving mastery or completion. How can we avoid this cycle of starting and stopping, and what strategies can the pure use to cultivate perseverance and commitment? It requires a shift in mindset, a willingness to embrace imperfection, and a recognition that mastery is a process, not a destination. The pure must learn to tolerate frustration and setbacks, to view challenges as opportunities for growth, and to celebrate small victories along the way. It also requires a commitment to setting realistic goals and breaking them down into manageable steps, making it easier to stay motivated and maintain momentum. The pure may engage in negative self-talk, criticizing himself harshly and undermining his confidence, making it difficult to pursue his goals with conviction. What are the sources of this self-talk, and how can the pure learn to challenge these negative beliefs and cultivate a more positive self-image? It is often rooted in early childhood experiences and internalized messages from parents, teachers, or other authority figures. The pure may have been subjected to harsh criticism or unrealistic expectations, leading him to internalize a belief that he is not good enough. To challenge these negative beliefs, the pure can practice self-compassion, mindfulness, and cognitive restructuring techniques, learning to identify and challenge negative thought patterns and replace them with more positive and realistic ones. These self-sabotaging behaviors can reinforce the pure's sense of helplessness and prevent him from realizing his full potential, creating a cycle of frustration and unfulfillment. What fuels the cycle, and how can the pure break free from these destructive patterns and move towards a more empowered and fulfilling life? It requires a willingness to confront his fears, embrace his limitations, and take responsibility for his own choices. The pure must learn to challenge his negative beliefs, cultivate self-compassion, and develop the resilience and perseverance needed to overcome obstacles. But most importantly, he must recognize the shadow elements at play. As discussed in the previous video about the shadow, confronting and integrating the shadow is a crucial step in the individuation process. This involves acknowledging and accepting the negative aspects of the personality, rather than repressing or denying them. Why is shadow work so crucial, and what happens when we fail to confront our darker side? Because until the unconscious becomes conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Failing to confront our shadow leads to projection, where we attribute our own unacceptable qualities to others, creating conflict and misunderstanding. For the pure, the shadow may include feelings of inadequacy, fear of failure, resentment towards authority, and a deep-seated insecurity about his ability to succeed in the real world. What are the first steps to take when performing shadow work, and how can the pure begin to unearth these hidden aspects of his personality? It begins with self-observation, paying attention to the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors that we tend to judge or reject in ourselves. The pure may notice that he is quick to criticize others, that he is easily triggered by authority figures, or that he has a persistent sense of being not good enough. These are all clues that point to the presence of shadow material. However, within these shadow aspects also lie hidden gifts and potential. The pure's rebellious spirit can be channeled into creative innovation. His sensitivity can lead to deep empathy, and his desire for freedom can fuel a passion for social justice. What's a personal journey through shadow work like, and how can the pure transform his perceived weaknesses into strengths? It is a process of reclaiming disowned parts of the self, recognizing that even the darkest aspects of our personality have value and purpose. The pure's rebellious spirit, for example, can be a source of creativity and innovation, allowing him to challenge conventional thinking and create new possibilities. Techniques for integrating the shadow include journaling, dream analysis, active imagination, and therapy. These methods can help the pure become more aware of his shadow aspects and learn to accept them as part of himself. What are the signs we need to start shadow work, and how can we know when it's time to delve into the depths of our unconscious? When we experience persistent feelings of anger, resentment, or fear, when we find ourselves constantly judging or criticizing others, or when we feel stuck in self-destructive patterns of behavior, these are all indications that it's time to explore our shadow. Consider the case of a writer who struggled with procrastination and self-doubt. Through shadow work, he discovered that his procrastination stemmed from a fear of criticism and a belief that his work was not good enough. By acknowledging these fears and challenging his negative self-talk, he was able to overcome his procrastination and complete his novel. How can this case study be applied more generally, and what lessons can we learn from this writer's journey? It demonstrates the power of shadow work to transform our perceived weaknesses into strengths, to overcome self-sabotaging behaviors, and to unlock our creative potential. By confronting his fears and challenging his negative beliefs, the writer was able to tap into his inner resources and achieve his goals. By integrating his shadow, the pure can reclaim his lost potential and move towards a more balanced and fulfilling life. How does this influence the individual on a day-to-day basis, and what tangible benefits can the pure expect to experience? Greater self-awareness, increased emotional resilience, improved relationships, and a deeper sense of meaning and purpose. The integration of the shadow allows the pure to become more authentic, more compassionate, and more fully alive. It's important to remember that individuation is not a destination, but a lifelong journey, involving ongoing self-reflection, growth, and transformation. What does transformation entail, and how can the pure embrace this continuous process of self-discovery? It involves a willingness to challenge our assumptions, to question our beliefs, and to step outside of our comfort zones. It requires a commitment to lifelong learning, to seeking out new experiences, and to embracing the unknown. Transformation is not a one-time event, but a continuous unfolding of our potential, a journey of becoming more fully ourselves. Be patient with yourself and practice self-compassion, recognizing that setbacks and challenges are a natural part of the process. There is value in failing. What does self-compassion look like in practice, and how can the pure cultivate a more forgiving and accepting attitude towards himself? It involves treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would offer to a friend who is struggling. It means recognizing that we are all imperfect, that we all make mistakes, and that setbacks are a natural part of life. Self-compassion allows us to learn from our mistakes without beating ourselves up, to forgive ourselves for our shortcomings, and to move forward with renewed hope and resilience. Seek out healthy role models and mentors who embody the qualities you aspire to develop, such as responsibility, commitment, and emotional maturity. What values should these role models have, and how can the pure identify individuals who can provide guidance and support on his journey? They should be individuals who demonstrate integrity, authenticity, and compassion, who are willing to share their wisdom and experience, and who can provide a supportive and non-judgmental presence. The pure can seek out mentors in his personal or professional life, or he can turn to books, articles, or other resources that offer insights and inspiration. Acknowledge and celebrate your small victories and progress along the way, reinforcing your motivation and commitment to personal growth. How do small victories build momentum, and why is it important to recognize and appreciate our achievements, no matter how small? They provide a sense of accomplishment and reinforce our belief in our ability to succeed. Celebrating small victories helps us to stay motivated, to maintain momentum, and to cultivate a more positive attitude towards our goals. By integrating the pure eternus archetype, you can harness its creative energy, enthusiasm, and passion for life, while also embracing the responsibilities and commitments that are essential for a fulfilling and meaningful existence. How does this balance manifest, and what does it look like to live a life that is both authentic and responsible? It involves finding a way to express our creativity and enthusiasm in a way that is also grounded and purposeful. It means embracing our responsibilities and commitments, not as burdens, but as opportunities to grow and contribute to the world. It requires a willingness to integrate the seemingly opposing forces within ourselves, to embrace the paradox of being both childlike and mature, both free and responsible. The path from eternal child to integrated adult is not always easy, but it is ultimately a journey worth taking. leading to a life of greater authenticity, purpose, and fulfillment. Are we alone on this path, or is there something that helps guide us? What if this pure archetype had an equal and opposite archetype that could counter his worst traits? Western culture, particularly in the age of social media, is hyper-focused on youthfulness, beauty, and vitality, often at the expense of wisdom, experience, and authenticity. What are the effects of this obsession, and how does it influence our psychological landscape? This pervasive emphasis can create a distorted sense of self-worth, fueling a relentless pursuit of an unattainable ideal and perpetuating a cycle of dissatisfaction and self-criticism. The pressure to conform to these unrealistic standards can lead to a profound disconnect from one's true self, hindering the journey towards individuation and fostering a sense of alienation and unfulfillment. The beauty industry, fueled by advertising and celebrity endorsements, promotes a never-ending quest for the fountain of youth, offering products and procedures that promise to reverse the aging process. How does the beauty industry play a part in this obsession, and what are the ethical implications of profiting from insecurities? The relentless marketing of youth-enhancing products reinforces the message that aging is undesirable, further exacerbating the fear of growing old and contributing to a culture of ageism. This commercialization of youth can create a sense of inadequacy and anxiety, particularly for those who feel unable to meet these unrealistic standards. The pursuit of external beauty becomes a substitute for inner growth and self-acceptance, perpetuating a cycle of dependence on external validation. Underlying this cultural obsession is a deep-seated fear of aging, illness, and death, leading to a widespread denial of mortality and a desperate attempt to cling to youthfulness. What does this denial of mortality create, and how does it impact our ability to live authentically in the present moment? This fear can manifest as an obsession with physical appearance, a frantic pursuit of anti-aging treatments, and a refusal to acknowledge the natural processes of aging. This denial of mortality can lead to a life lived in constant anxiety and fear, preventing individuals from fully embracing the richness and complexity of the human experience. It can also lead to a profound sense of meaninglessness, as individuals focus solely on superficial pursuits rather than engaging with the deeper questions of life and death. This cultural pressure to stay young can lead to anxiety, depression, body image issues, and a sense of unfulfillment, particularly for those who struggle to meet these unrealistic expectations. What is the connection between anxiety and beauty standards, and how does this pressure impact our mental and emotional well-being? The constant bombardment of images depicting flawless youth and beauty can create a sense of inadequacy and self-doubt, leading to body image issues and eating disorders. The pressure to conform to these standards can also lead to feelings of isolation and loneliness, as individuals struggle to connect with others in an authentic and meaningful way. The pursuit of external beauty becomes a substitute for inner peace and self-acceptance, perpetuating a cycle of dissatisfaction and despair. While the desire to maintain health and vitality is natural, the extreme pursuit of youthfulness can become a trap, perpetuating the pure eterness complex and hindering the path to individuation. What happens when this is not challenged, and how can we break free from this cycle of obsession and denial? The relentless pursuit of youth can become a form of escapism, preventing individuals from confronting the deeper issues of life and death. This can lead to a stagnation of personal growth and a failure to fully realize one's potential. The pure eterness, in his desire to remain forever young and carefree, may find himself trapped in a perpetual state of adolescence, unable to embrace the responsibilities and commitments of adulthood. Helicopter parenting, characterized by excessive involvement in a child's life, can stifle independence, creativity, and problem-solving skills, fostering a sense of entitlement and dependence. How does helicopter parenting manifest, and what are the long-term consequences for the child's development? This over-involvement can prevent children from developing a sense of self-efficacy and resilience, leading to anxiety, depression, and a lack of motivation. Children raised in this environment may struggle to make decisions independently, lacking the confidence to navigate challenges and pursue their own goals. They may also develop a sense of entitlement, believing that they deserve special treatment and are not responsible for their own actions. Overprotective parenting, aimed at shielding children from all risks and challenges, can prevent them from developing resilience, self-confidence, and the ability to cope with adversity. How can overprotective parenting affect resilience, and how can we foster a child's ability to bounce back from setbacks? By constantly shielding children from discomfort and disappointment, parents inadvertently prevent them from developing the coping mechanisms needed to navigate life's inevitable challenges. This can lead to a fragile sense of self-worth and a fear of failure, making it difficult for children to take risks and pursue their passions. They may also develop a sense of helplessness, believing that they are incapable of handling difficult situations on their own. Snowplow parenting, which involves actively removing obstacles from a child's path, can undermine their sense of competence and prevent them from learning from their mistakes. Where do the effects of snowplow parenting emerge, and how does this approach hinder the development of essential life skills? By constantly clearing the way for their children, parents prevent them from learning how to solve problems, overcome obstacles, and develop resilience. This can lead to a lack of self-confidence and a sense of helplessness, making it difficult for children to succeed in school, work, and relationships. They may also develop a sense of entitlement, believing that they deserve to have everything handed to them on a silver platter. When parents offer love and approval only when a child meets certain expectations or achieves certain goals, it can create a sense of insecurity and a fear of failure, fueling the pure's desire for constant validation. How does conditional love affect the pure's development, and what are the long-term consequences for their self-esteem and relationships? This can lead to a deep-seated insecurity and a relentless pursuit of external validation, as the child strives to earn their parents' love and approval. This pattern can continue into adulthood, leading to codependent relationships, a fear of intimacy, and a constant need for reassurance. The pure may struggle to develop a strong sense of self-worth, relying instead on the approval of others to feel valued. Consider the case of a young man whose parents constantly praised him for his intelligence and talent, but never allowed him to fail or experience setbacks. As an adult, he struggles with anxiety and self-doubt, fearing that he will not be able to live up to his parents' expectations. How does this case study relate to perfectionism, and what are the underlying psychological dynamics at play? This young man's experience illustrates the damaging effects of conditional love and overprotective parenting. He has internalized his parents' expectations and now feels immense pressure to succeed, fearing that he will lose their love and approval if he fails. This has led to a crippling sense of anxiety and self-doubt, preventing him from taking risks and pursuing his passions. These parenting styles, while often well-intentioned, can inadvertently nurture the pure complex, hindering the child's ability to develop into a responsible, independent, and self-sufficient adult. But how can parents approach their children differently, and what are the alternative parenting approaches that foster healthy development? It requires a shift in mindset, a willingness to let children experience failure and learn from their mistakes, and a focus on fostering intrinsic motivation rather than external validation. Parents can encourage independence by giving children age-appropriate responsibilities, allowing them to make their own decisions, and providing a safe and supportive environment for them to explore their interests and passions. True wholeness involves embracing both the pure and the senex archetypes within, recognizing that each has valuable qualities to contribute to the personality. What does that type of balance look like, and how does it manifest in our daily lives? It involves finding a way to integrate the creative energy and enthusiasm of the pure with the wisdom, responsibility, and groundedness of the senex. This integration allows us to live a life that is both authentic and purposeful, embracing our passions while also fulfilling our responsibilities. The pure's creativity, imagination, and enthusiasm can bring joy, spontaneity, and innovation to life, fueling passion projects and fostering a sense of wonder. What is the value in passion, and how can we harness this creative energy to enrich our lives and the lives of others? Passion provides us with a sense of purpose and meaning, motivating us to pursue our goals with enthusiasm and dedication. It allows us to tap into our inner resources and overcome obstacles, fostering resilience and a sense of accomplishment. The pure's creative energy can be channeled into a variety of outlets, such as art, music, writing, or entrepreneurship, allowing us to express our unique talents and make a meaningful contribution to the world. The senex's wisdom, experience, and sense of responsibility provide structure, stability, and a sense of groundedness, enabling one to make sound decisions and navigate life's challenges with resilience. How can wisdom and experience offer structure and stability, and how do these qualities help us to create a more fulfilling and meaningful life? Wisdom allows us to make informed decisions based on past experiences and insights, providing a sense of direction and purpose. Responsibility helps us to stay grounded in reality, fulfilling our commitments and contributing to the well-being of others. These qualities are essential for navigating the complexities of adult life, allowing us to overcome challenges and create a stable and fulfilling existence. Integrating the pure and the senex involves finding a balance between freedom and commitment, spontaneity and planning, and enthusiasm and discipline. How can the pure integrate planning into its life, and how can the senex embrace spontaneity and creativity? It requires a willingness to embrace the opposing forces within ourselves, recognizing that each has value and purpose. The pure can learn to incorporate planning and discipline into his life by setting realistic goals, breaking them down into manageable steps, and creating a consistent routine. The senex can embrace spontaneity and creativity by allowing himself to step outside of his comfort zone, try new things, and express his imagination. Practical strategies for achieving this integration include setting realistic goals, developing healthy boundaries, practicing mindfulness, and engaging in activities that foster both creativity and responsibility. What practices help integrate the pure and the senex, and how can we incorporate these strategies into our daily lives? Setting realistic goals allows us to focus our energy and efforts, providing a sense of direction and purpose. Developing healthy boundaries helps us to protect our time and energy, preventing us from becoming overwhelmed or depleted. Practicing mindfulness allows us to stay present in the moment, appreciating the simple joys of life and cultivating a sense of inner peace. Engaging in activities that foster both creativity and responsibility allows us to express our unique talents while also contributing to the well-being of others. By embracing both the pure and the senex, individuals can move towards a more balanced, fulfilling, and integrated life, realizing their full potential and contributing meaningfully to the world. What are the keys to unlocking this process, and how can we embark on this journey of self-discovery and transformation? It requires a willingness to confront our fears, embrace our limitations, and take responsibility for our own choices. It means learning to integrate the opposing forces within ourselves, to embrace the paradox of being both childlike and mature, both free and responsible. It requires a commitment to lifelong learning, to seeking out new experiences, and to embracing the unknown. Consider the case of a successful entrepreneur who initially struggled with impulsivity and a lack of focus, constantly jumping from one idea to another without ever fully developing any of them. How was the entrepreneur able to embrace structure, and what strategies did he use to overcome his impulsivity and develop a more focused approach? This entrepreneur learned to channel his creative energy and enthusiasm into a specific business venture, setting clear goals, developing a detailed business plan, and surrounding himself with a team of skilled and experienced professionals. He also learned to practice mindfulness and meditation, helping him to stay focused and manage his impulsivity. By integrating the Senex's qualities of structure and discipline, he was able to transform his creative energy into a successful business. Explore the case of an artist who struggled with creative blocks and a fear of commitment, constantly starting projects but never finishing them. This artist learned to embrace discipline and structure, setting realistic goals and developing a consistent work routine, ultimately leading to greater creative fulfillment. How can structure help creativity blossom? And what does this case study reveal about the relationship between discipline and artistic expression? This artist discovered that structure and discipline, rather than stifling creativity, actually enhanced it. By setting realistic goals and developing a consistent work routine, she was able to overcome her fear of commitment and tap into a deeper source of creative inspiration. She also learned to embrace imperfection, recognizing that not every project had to be a masterpiece, allowing her to take risks and experiment with new ideas. Analyze the case of an individual who struggled with codependent relationships, constantly seeking validation and approval from others. They learned to set healthy boundaries, develop self-compassion, and cultivate a sense of inner worth, ultimately leading to more fulfilling and balanced connections. How can the cycle of codependency be broken, and what are the key steps to cultivating healthy and balanced relationships? This individual learned to recognize their own needs and desires, setting boundaries to protect their time and energy. They also learned to practice self-compassion, treating themselves with the same kindness and understanding that they would offer to a friend. By cultivating a sense of inner worth, they were able to break free from the cycle of codependency and form more fulfilling and balanced relationships based on mutual respect and autonomy. These case studies demonstrate that it is possible to transform the pure eterness archetype and move towards a more balanced, fulfilling, and integrated life. However, are these transformations easily attained, or do they require significant effort and dedication? These transformations require a willingness to confront our fears, embrace our limitations, and take responsibility for our own choices. It means learning to integrate the opposing forces within ourselves, to embrace the paradox of being both childlike and mature, both free and responsible. It requires a commitment to lifelong learning, to seeking out new experiences, and to embracing the unknown. By learning from these examples and applying the strategies discussed in this video, you can harness the creative energy of the pure while embracing the responsibilities and commitments that are essential for a meaningful existence. Now that we've heard the case studies, how do we apply the knowledge, and what does it mean to take real ownership of the shadow self? But more importantly, how does it change our relationships with other people? Having explored the societal pressures, parenting styles, and personal transformations related to the pure eterness, we now turn to synthesizing these insights and considering their implications for our own lives. Let's draw together the threads of our discussion to gain a more complete understanding of the eternal child archetype and its role in the journey of individuation. We have examined the tension between the pure's inherent desire for freedom and novelty and the necessity of embracing responsibility and commitment for a meaningful existence. Our journey has illuminated the shadow aspects of the pure archetype, the impact of societal and familial influences, and the potential for transformation through integration of opposing forces within the psyche. Ultimately, our exploration has centered on the enduring human challenge of reconciling the boundless potential of youth with the grounded wisdom of maturity in the pursuit of psychological wholeness. This delicate balance, often disrupted by societal expectations and personal traumas, requires a continuous calibration of internal drives and external demands, pushing individuals to confront their limitations and embrace their potential. We began by pondering the seeming contradiction of an archetype embodying both boundless creativity and profound stagnation. Now, after exploring the interplay of the pure and the senex, we see that the resolution lies in understanding the necessary dance between these opposing forces. Initially, the pure eterness might have seemed like a purely negative or immature trait. But through exploring the creative potential and the shadow aspects, we now appreciate its complex role in the pursuit of a balanced existence. This archetype, often misunderstood and readily dismissed, emerges as a crucial catalyst for self-discovery, prompting individuals to confront their deepest fears and aspirations in the ongoing quest for authenticity. True growth is accepting limits, not just aspiring to the limitless. The struggle to integrate the eternal child is a microcosm of the universal human struggle to reconcile the ideal with the real, the potential with the limitations, and the longing for freedom with the necessity of responsibility. For it is in the embrace of both the soaring spirit of youth and the grounded wisdom of age that we discover the wings to carry us toward a more complete and authentic self. It is this very paradox, the acceptance of inherent limitations alongside boundless potential, that fuels the journey of individuation. Consider how the pure eterness archetype might be influencing your own decisions, relationships, and life path. What aspects of this archetype resonate most strongly within you? The insights gleaned from this exploration invite us to reconsider our approach to personal growth, emphasizing the importance of embracing both the potential and the limitations inherent in the human experience. By engaging in this self-reflection, we can each gain a deeper understanding of our own psychological landscape, paving the way for a more meaningful and fulfilling life. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of the pure eterness.